And welcome to a VSA Capital video blog, and delighted today to have Mark Bolton, the Chief Executive of Panthera Resources, all the way over from Perth. Mark, great to have you here in London.
Thank you very much for hosting me, Andrew.
I gather you also had a slight bit of turbulence on the way over, but not quite as bad as Singapore Airlines.
Yes, it wasn't what I signed up for on the Dublin flight. Fortunately, I don't think anyone was seriously hurt. But
Anyway,
when you live in
let's hope
Australia,
there's
you
no
have to be
turbulence.
prepared to fly.
Yeah, let's hope there's no turbulence or nasty turbulence like that in the share price going forward. Look, we're here to talk about Panthera Resources and to whet people's appetite a little bit. We're just going to chat for about 15 minutes. Um,
Sure.
First thing is, Panthera Resources, you look at it, is this a junior mining gold exploration company? And it's not really, is it, Mark? You want to just quickly explain why it is?
Look, Panthera has a flagship asset, the Bhukia project in India. Unfortunately, we have had some challenges in India, and ultimately the company is now pursuing an arbitration process under the Australian-India Bilateral Investment Treaty. So we're trying to realize the value of that Bhukia Gold project through that arbitration process. We're under the treaty. We're entitled to recover the damages for any breaches of that treaty.
And that treaty, just to be slightly specific, is actually between Australia and India, not the UK, even though you're an AIM listed company.
Yes, that's correct. Our subsidiary of the PLC, a holding company which is listed on AIM, the subsidiary happens to be an Australian company, and our inbound investment into India is from Indo Gold. Hence, we're protected under the Australia-India treaty.
Now, there's a few things that spring into one's mind when one says arbitration and against a state, and that is, God, that must be really expensive. It's going to take forever. And what am I really going to get out of it? I mean, do you want to just explain, perhaps, first of all, how the costs of all this are actually being covered for you?
Look, as a small cap company, those costs are significant. In fact, the budget for the arbitration is circa our market cap. We certainly don't have the balance sheet to pursue the claim, but given the strength of our claim, we've been able to attract one of the leading industry financiers in arbitration finance, a company called Litigation Capital Management, which is headquartered in London, listed on the London markets, and a very successful financier with a track record of 90x plus % successful outcomes. They have provided us a 13.6 million US facility to fund all of the costs of that arbitration over a multi-year period. Without that, it would be a challenge. So that financing, besides giving us money to pursue it and therefore realize the value of Bhukia through this path, we take a great deal of comfort through the expertise and that track record of LCM in delivering outcomes for its shareholders and commensurate our shareholders.
And presumably they did a pretty large, I mean, they're putting a lot of money into this. They must have done a lot of DD to feel that they're onto a case that they are likely to get a successful outcome on.
Indeed. Look, it's a $13.6 million bet on a binary outcome. So you need to achieve a fairly high level of confidence before I would certainly, in terms of that bet, so to speak. I'm sure they don't like me using the word bet. In fact, I know they don't like me using that word, but I guess it's somewhat Australian to have a wager. The DD itself was more than a year. There were 6 months of internal due diligence before we even announced the deal in February last year. And then there was another 6 months of external due diligence where they retained a number of consultants across various areas of expertise culminating in the financing going unconditional in around August last year.
So they must feel pretty confident then. I know that obviously you haven't said, and there are reasons why, and I'm sure you'll come on to it later, exactly what the claim is you're looking for. But can you put it into some sort of perspective? Because, you know, currently I think your market cap is about, let's call it £10 million. You know, are we looking here at a 10 bagger, a 20 bagger, a 100 bagger if we get success? Or I know you tend to say, look, we're probably valued at, 1 cent on the dollar or something. Is that sort of the scale that we're looking at so investors can get an idea of just how big the return could be if you were successful? Obviously, we can't guarantee on any success, but what is the sort of range we're talking about?
I, I'll let you use phrases like baggers. I'm not sure it's appropriate for a CEO to use that phraseology, but to assist shareholders or investors to get a flavour of the opportunity. The government of India reported, the Times of India has quoted government officials in India indicating a value of Bhukia of circa 1.2 billion US dollars. Okay. Our actual claim value will only be made public once we lodge our statement of claim. But we are looking at what I consider to be a tier 1 global asset, probably one of the top 10 most desirable undeveloped projects in the world. So I don't disagree with that number by the government of India, but the actual claim value will come out later in the year. So why do I harp on the value of Bhukia? Because our claim is essentially going to be underpinned. The damages is underpinned by the fair value of the asset. It's a lot more complicated than that, but essentially that's a good proxy. So using those metrics and having a market cap of £10 million, call it 12-13 million US, that's where loose phrase or loose expressions of 1 or 2 cents on the dollar come into the picture. That's the differential, the opportunity.
Yeah, because I mean, again, I want to go back obviously to the process in a minute, but just talking about valuations a bit. I mean, there are, I think you used the phrase, a class of assets that are similar to you. And of course, in this country, we all know about Cairn, who took on the Indian government. It was different, but it had a similar sort of, billion-dollar result. But there are quite a few other companies of a similar class. I know GreenX is one that is well known in the UK and is not so dissimilar. This class tend to, I believe, trade as you get close towards the end of the result. They sort of trade upwards towards 10 cents in the dollar, 20 cents in the dollar. I think GreenX has been as high as 30 cents in the dollar. So if that gives you an idea of how the sort of the discount, or the whatever you want to call it, moves as you get closer to the end result. And actually, again, I know that a lot of people say, look, it's better to travel and arrive. Once you maybe get up to 20 or 30 cents in the dollar, take some of your profits, because the end result is binary and it's a bit of a risk. Would you agree with my analysis there?
Look, absolutely. In fact, I was somewhat naive in terms of this class of asset prior to embarking on this journey. I'm pleased to say that I became much more informed once we pressed the button on the arbitration. So to express it in a very simplified term, you've got an outcome, positive or negative. We believe positive, and LCM, who are funding the case, certainly believe positive, which has a significant binary outcome. In other words, a significant potential award. There is a probability of success, a time period between now and then, and a cost to pursue that claim. So as you get closer towards that outcome, we've seen companies like GreenX trade closer and closer to that claim value in the future. And that's really an interim, I guess, an interim return on your investment, as well as the outcome later on. So GreenX, is, where are they now? They're pending a decision by their tribunal, and they circa trading at about 20% of their target value. They, like us, are well supported by LCM, and like us, there is a track record of countries in Europe meeting their obligations against, in terms of favourable tribunal awards. The Cairn example, each case is unique. So, we need to appreciate it's a class, not a category, or a sector, because it's down to the individual merit of each claim. But we take a great deal of comfort from Cairn because they were able to successfully get an award and receive payment under that award of circa 1.2 billion.
And just moving on, these situations do go on for a long time. You've got to be quite a patient investor, but there's nothing wrong with being patient. Just talk us through a little bit the sort of the time length, because it could be sort of 3-4 years, and the things that are going to take place. There's actually quite a lot of news in the next 6 months, but how it sort of pans out so that investors get a feel of what's going to be going on.
Sure. Look, the average time for international arbitration claims across both ICSID and UNCITRAL, but just say BIT claims generally, is circa 3 years. We think it'll be 3+ years. Certainly, there are many examples of cases that have taken longer than 3 years. Along that journey, there are clearly defined steps which are announceable events. So we've issued the notice of dispute. We are in an engagement period with the government of India, and if that engagement period is not satisfactory, we'll be issuing a notice of arbitration, and subsequent to that, we constitute a tribunal, which is the next step. And then the next step after that is us filing our statement of claim and first memorial. And there's several of those over the 2-year period, followed by hearings, and then a decision by the tribunal. So over the period of those 3+ years, there will be, every 3 to 6 months, there will be an announcement of progress.
Okay, so there will actually be news flow, which is quite good. And presumably, of course, as you get towards, should we say, 18 months before the end, 12 months, you're going to get more and more people sort of want to be able to play in the market, and there'll be quite a lot of activity and excitement. Is that what one would expect? Whereas now it's all pretty quiet and no one really knows about it.
Indeed. We're at if you like, at the first base. What we've observed by looking at similar companies in this class, as you move forward through the arbitration process, you're more attractive to retail investors who want to invest in the potential outcome, the windfall gain or loss. But gain is what investors are seeking. And we see not only an improvement in liquidity, but what I think is a more accurate pricing of that investment opportunity. So that's where the interim investment horizon comes from, investing now and trading into that phase change effectively, and then thereafter all the way into the actual arbitration decision.
Presumably, and it is possible that a settlement could happen earlier. I'm not saying it will or won't, but you can't rule it out, because particularly at the moment with the gold price being so high and a lot of people think it's going to go higher, as you say, this is a world-class asset. They may decide, we need to clean this up. Let's just settle at a price that gets them off our backs, so that we can actually get the value out of this asset.
Look, at any point in time, the parties can negotiate. Any point in time, they can put a pause on the arbitration and at any point in time, they can settle. There is nothing at any point in time during this arbitration phase where the parties can't reach a resolution. And this isn't. We will take a shareholder-focused view on what's an appropriate settlement at any point in time. So if it makes commercial sense for us to settle, we will settle. What's important here is that the arbitration financing and the arbitration itself is a matter that we control, and we'll pursue that to the nth to get a result. If the government of India wants to come to the table and we find there's common ground, sure, we'll do it. We'll clearly look at it at an earlier settlement option.
And then just you do have a couple of exploration assets in Africa as well in the portfolio,
Yes.
but correct me if I'm wrong, they're not actually core. And if you could find a good way of maybe moving them into somebody else's vehicle, that would suit your book, really, wouldn't it? You want to focus on this arbitration, don't you?
Look, indeed, the two asset classes are now incongruent. And any dollar I spend on those exploration assets, as much as I like them and think they are worthy of significant expenditure, we are at these pricing levels. It's highly dilutionary to the claim in the hands of our shareholders. So either we need to find other people to finance those assets, or we need to shift them off our balance sheet. And we're certainly looking very closely at a number of options in that regard. So hypothetically, if we were to look at moving them off balance sheet, it could involve a spin out and shareholders receiving direct value out of those assets. And I believe, arguably, that those assets have little value recognition in our current share price. So shareholders could get effectively a potential bonus if we were to do something like that. Like I said, we're looking at all options.
Just, finally, Mark, to wrap it up, because we try and keep these fairly short, and as I say, this is more to whet people's appetite. Maybe just a little bit on yourself. You actually joined the company, after it discovered this gold asset a long time ago. All these issues had started for some time. You've come in almost as sort of Mr. Fix-It, so to speak. What exactly were your credentials for being Mr. Fix-It?
I'm a little bit lost for words now. Look, I've been operating in India for around a decade, and was fortunate to be one of the few people, as part of a team, I might add. These fixing sovereign issues are not simple, and teams are important. So with my colleagues, we were able to fix fairly difficult issues in India on another matter. So given the quality of the asset is what attracted me to this company. Bhukia is just outstanding. Ignore the arbitration; it is just a dream asset. Notwithstanding the arbitration, I still hope that one day I can be involved with its development. But anyway, we're in arbitration now. That's a different parallel universe right now. Where we have the company is elected to do is to pursue this arbitration with the support of LCM, because on balance that is expected to deliver the best outcome for shareholders in the absence of an amicable settlement. This will be the fourth arbitration that I've had the displeasure of being involved in. Not the three previous ones were all we managed to settle without reaching a final award, and I will continue to work at the potential for an early settlement, both in the interests of India and the interest of our shareholders. This isn't an attack on India specifically. it is an unfortunate circumstance that all parties find themselves in. There's no right or wrong side. It's how do we all get ourselves out of this position and go forward in a constructive and value accretive way, both for the government of India and us.
Fascinating. Mark, thank you for your time. It is quite short. It's just a whet appetite. If people have got questions when they watch this, feel free to call us or email us or get in touch with Mark directly. But Mark, I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more as the years go on, and I'm quite sure you'll get a successful outcome, which is the key to this. Not necessarily a success, but a successful outcome. But thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Andrew. I appreciate your time.